Welcome back to Through the Ringer. We're here in Los Angeles, live in studio, and joining us now, the Ringer's very own Tyler Parker. Tyler, great to see you, man.
Dude, thrilled to be here. Thrilled to see you.
Well, you know what I usually do when you come on the show? I pepper you with questions about the Oklahoma City Thunder,
Right.
And today is no different. Let's start. The Thunder just beat the champs, the Denver Nuggets, 105-100. Takeaways from this game. The Thunder, like, what is the ceiling of this team? Do they need another piece, or do we feel good about where they are right now?
You know, I think it's both, right? I think you feel very good about where
Second in the West,
and to be the
all-star starter,
second youngest team in the league. I think, Chet and Jalen Williams, they don't have great arguments to be all-stars, but they have decent ones, right? They're not going to get in there, but that they've both that Jalen has sort of become what he's become, that he's bloomed into this kind of two-way force that can take over in fourth quarters in just his second year. It's a really, really scary front line that's kind of blooming there. I think they do need another piece. Jalen Williams recently went down with an ankle, and in that next game was against the Nuggets last night, but even last night you kind of saw like you need a little bit more oomph offensively than maybe what you've got right now. And everybody's talking about it. It's a fair critique, the size thing. I mean, it's a light front line for sure. They use that to their advantage in a lot of other areas and can kind of keep big scrambling because of the way that they play. But you'd like to see them maybe go out and get another body that can go grab some rebounds and guard some of these, scorers, some of these big boys.
So who is that, right? I mean, I've heard people say there's a big that they need to add to this team, and there's, a lot of bigs that could be on the buyout market, things like that. But who's like a player that if you sign or you make a trade for that you're like, oh, this guy could actually change the trajectory of this team?
I think if they go that route and they get a big, you want somebody who's not going to bog down the way that they like to play. They play kind of a constant attacking style. Everybody drives. It's not some situation where if you're just a rim running big, you can kind of fit in. You need to be able to catch and put it on the deck a little bit and make some decisions with the ball. Somebody like a Kelly Olynyk in that fashion where not a lot of years left on the deal, not a lot of money, but somebody who theoretically playoff experience could come in, could lean on Jokic for a little bit if you needed him to in a situation like that, but is also not going to stop what you do well from continuing. You know what I mean? I worry about somebody like a Capella is a name you hear thrown around by some people. And I worry about a guy that plays like that fitting in on an offense that is entirely predicated on like, all right, let's get it moving and keep it moving and be able to do something with it once we get it. And a plodding kind of big like that, even one that can give you some verticality and go catch some lobs, I don't think it's what they're going to try to do.
Who's a dream trade asset? Like, who's a guy on a team out there that maybe is not, going to be in the play-in, that's on the outside looking in, that you're like, if you put them on this Thunder team, they would thrive?
I mean, we were talking before the mics went on, someone like a Cam Johnson, a big wing who could guard some of these big scorers in the West. Got experience and is going to get a lot of open shots and knows what to do with those. That
would be a big swing. I mean, and you'd probably have to include some picks potentially, and maybe like a Giddey. I don't know.
Who knows if the Nets are trying to hop off of somebody like that, because those are guys that everybody's
are saying yes. They are like Mikal Bridges. You're coming to the Knicks, even if he doesn't want to. I mean, they're making it happen.
Hey,
I see a trade machine every day from these Villanova fans.
I mean, that's not what we're talking about, but I would love it if Bridges went to the Knicks. Wouldn't that be so fun?
Yeah, Jay Wright's next.
Tibbs' smile turns to a frown on that. Someone like that. I mean, the dream 10 dreams for Tyler Parker personally. Naz Reid.
Oh yeah.
Wolves aren't parting with
number
perfection.
One in the West. Yeah.
Wolves aren't parting with perfection there, but like in terms of like that's the archetype for me. Kind of a backup big that can play starters minutes if you need him to, but like can move the ball and do some stuff when it's in his hands, and you feel comfortable when he's catching a swing rotation out of a double on the other side, and he's the guy that's shooting it in the corner. You know what I mean? Someone like that.
Everybody's going to talk about Chet and Wemby. I want to talk about another rivalry, a young rivalry that's happening in real time right now. Anthony Edwards versus SGA.
Yeah.
And more specifically, Anthony Edwards versus the refs that call fouls for SGA. I mean, he has made it known. He's pointed it out multiple times. And now they're both 1-2 in the Western Conference. And both guys get downhill. Both guys are future superstars. Do you like this little budding? It feels like a rivalry is brewing.
Yes.
And it's not out there yet, but it's on the verge.
No, they need a playoff series. They need an extended playoff series to kind of consummate the rivalry.
Yeah.
And to really like let the fan bases kind of gnash at each other.
And I like it. Like, he's the face of Canada. Ant-Man's going to be the face of USA basketball.
It works. There's a lot of things that each fan base can say, like, well, like, look, like Edwards is 3 years younger. And it's like, well, yeah, but they've had a little bit, that team, your team is a little bit more mature. It's had a little bit more time to grow. We're still young in this. You know,
Chet's
it's like,
from Minnesota. So like he's going against his home team that he grew up pulling for. There's a lot of layers between both teams.
Both teams are super competitive and play great defense. Like the Timberwolves have the best defense in the league. The Thunder, I think last I checked, were like maybe 6. And their half-court defense has been solid too. But that there are so many parallels, and then you have this Edwards trying to get through the muck of this like gigantic lineup that the Timberwolves have now. I mean, when they come out there with, Conley's been out, so they come out there with Gilgeous-Alexander, Walker, McDaniels, Edwards, Towns, and Gobert.
Everyone's 6'6" and above.
That's a gigantic lineup, and it's to go. I mean, talking about
SGA's
this rivalry,
cousin, by the way, another connective
who
tissue.
guards him well.
Yeah, right. Knows him well,
or as well as someone can guard him.
Right.
I mean, if you want to go back and like watch like some of the most impressive 37 points you'll ever see, that the last Timberwolves Thunder game that the Wolves won and really shut the door in the fourth, but. Yeah,
Anthony Edwards got fined after that game. He said, "Please find me."
Yes, I mean Shea goes for 37 that game, giving it to Edwards and McDaniels and his cousin. That's as tough a 37 as you're going to see. But that Wolves team is terrifying in a playoff series because they are just so physical. I mean, it's really almost from the like outside in a way. Like there's Gobert is for sure setting a tone down there, but you never like watch Gobert and you're like, wow, what a rugged, tough guy.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like physically, Edwards and McDaniel are bulls out there, and they really, really.
And then you got Naz Reid, who's a bull.
Dude, Naz is. I mean, can't say enough good things about Naz, and he's the type of guy that will win them at least one playoff game and maybe a couple. Like
when I'm thinking about the matchup of these two teams, like do the Thunder need to go get like not necessarily him, but like a beef stew type? Like, do we need like a big like that can battle with these bigs in Minnesota or Jokic? You know what I mean? Like, is that a guy that you need to go after?
It kind of is.
He might be available.
Yeah,
Duren's taking his minutes.
It kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier when it's like, you want somebody who's able to lean on Jokic a little bit. I don't want somebody who that's all they can do. I don't need like, Biyombo coming in and giving me 6 fouls, but he can't catch the ball. You know what I mean? Like, or you're playing out of a double somewhere else, the ball hits his hands and he can't reverse it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I don't want to.
You want to keep the fluidity of the offense.
I don't want the Thunder to be so concerned about like a weakness that they do something to paper over it that messes up the other stuff that have become strengths because of the way that they play with these like young athletic dudes that may be a little bit undersized but can fly around and make plays.
But in general, the Thunder ahead of schedule, right? That's the feeling.
I think very, very. I mean, any Thunder fan who was, if you had presented me with, hey, at the start of February, the Thunder will be the number 2 team in the West. That's like, before the season, you're saying, oh, they're like eons ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I don't think it's going to be feeling like house money for too much longer, because once you're a contender, then everyone starts talking to you about talking about your team like that, and then you start thinking like that, and all this like, oh, we're young, you have to keep reminding yourself of that because everyone's like, no, you could win now. You could do it now.
It's 2012.
And so I'm trying to enjoy the last days of my innocence here before it gets ripped away from me.
Before it gets turned up. Shout out to the Thunder. It's been a fun year.